So Cherries fell 2-1 to Newcastle United on Saturday in what was effectively a game of 3/3. It was a bizarre match, and here with me, as you can see, is Jeff Hayward. Jeff, I hear that you've been having issues like me with man flu and fever and all sorts of cold going on the last 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, pretty depressed with not feeling brilliant, and obviously the result yesterday sort of summed it up. Really, it was like, really something else.
Yeah, it wasn't great. But let's sort of roll back to 2:00 when the teams were announced, and there wasn't much in the way of a surprise, was there? I think most of us predicted that Lewis Cook would replace the suspended Jefferson Lerma, didn't we?
No surprise, although I think what that did mean was that Billing would have to play a bit deeper than he normally does. And yeah, I should have given us more creativity going forwards, because I think lots of people have been saying Lewis should be playing. So no real surprise. No,
that's right. And we started off, I thought, pretty well. During the first 20 minutes especially, and as I say, it seemed to be a game of 3/3, because just to go over it, I thought the first half an hour was brilliant. The next half an hour was very much backs to the walls, and then the last half an hour we were coming back into it, but it was just a game of cat and mouse, where they were counter-attacking, or we were trying to attack. They were moving forward and back as a unit, and trying to break down their defence was really difficult. But the plus points, first half an hour, we had a number of chances, didn't we? And you start to think we should be more clinical.
Yeah, we needed to be at least 2-0 up after that first half hour, at least. And Orion Fraser had a couple of good chances. One shot that skimmed the bar. Yep. A second where I still don't quite know how he didn't get a connection to stick it in. He was like a yard out. The ball came across to him from Josh King, and you think, geez, stick it in, man. Wee man, even. So that was disappointing when that fell just wide of the post. And you thought it's going to be one of those days, until Josh crossed for Callum. Callum had a decent header, probably his best chance of the game, actually, which flicked off the Newcastle defender. Cue corner routine. Yeah,
that's right. And, one off the training ground, and it was executed perfectly, wasn't it? It reminded me of the goal we scored against Manchester United at home in the very first Premier League match. Only that occasion, it was a ball straight into the box. It wasn't this short corner. So, and it was well worked. And I think Callum Wilson actually plays a very pivotal role in that goal. Craig on Twitter said exactly the same thing. Getting in the way of one of the defenders, leaving Harry Wilson the freedom of the park.
Yeah, the man marking Harry Wilson gets blocked very discreetly by Callum, and not overtly enough for it to be called a foul. Gives Harry Wilson loads of space and a crisp finish. The keeper couldn't move, didn't see it. It was pinpoint accuracy. There was lots of praise from around the Twitter community for that goal, because it was beautiful to watch.
When I was watching the opening stages of the game, it reminded me of Brighton last season, that 5-0, where it was very expansive. Newcastle had massive gaps in between their lines. We were playing the ball between the lines fairly easily. Josh King was picking it up. Adam Smith was getting some joy on the right-hand side, freeing Callum Wilson up, who, when he was running at goal, I don't know, he just seems really sluggish, doesn't he? He was ahead of his defender, but even he couldn't use his strength to sort of hold off his marker at all. And it wasn't the same Callum Wilson that we've been seeing previously, is it?
We touched on this in the last episode. What are we going to do about Callum? And overall in that game yesterday, I mentioned the header, which was probably his most significant contribution. He did a couple of runs down the channels to get free, but his crossing when he did was pretty poor. He just looks about a yard short, and I can't figure it out really. Is he playing with an injury? Is he just, I don't know, a bit kind of tired? Has he lost his mojo a little bit? It's really tough to pin down. What we need is Callum on this podcast saying, "Callum, what's the matter, mate?"
Yeah, I'll see if I can see if I can get in touch with him and see what he has to say. But yeah, I thought, as you say, the header, and he was very instrumental in the goal in terms of blocking the defender. But it was great to see that move, come off. But we should have made it 2, maybe 3. And like I said, referring to that Brighton, it was a very expansive game. There seemed to be so much space for us. And that chance, as we alluded to earlier, with Josh King bursting down the right, crossing for Fraser, I don't really know how on earth Fraser played it into the keeper. I thought it was easier to score, wasn't it?
It just let it come across onto your left and stick it in. It's an open goal, and that sort of typified how we've lacked that ruthlessness. You think about that chance should have been a goal. Fraser was played through beautifully by Lewis Cook, sort of raking 30-yard ball over the top. His first touch lets him down. And then get your head up, wee man, because there's 2 guys on the line. Square it to Callum, and, albeit Callum's in a poor run of form, he'd have had a much better shooting chance than you did. He just made the wrong call there. I think Diego Rico smashed one against the post from 20 yards, didn't he? And you thought the fans were actually singing, we're AFC Bournemouth, we can score when we want. Well,
not the case, eh?
Not the case. Not the case. And you felt, I felt watching the game, if we don't go 2-0 up, this is gonna all go pear-shaped, because it's a cliche, but you've got to score when you're on top. You've got to score when you're dominating possession. And at Newcastle, you and I know, watching those games, they've got 60,000 nutcase fans who give them anything and they get behind that team. It's a very emotional atmosphere to play in. And we gave them a sniff, and boy, did they take it.
Yeah, they really did. We had a few chances before there. I think, because I remember the player that we were alluding to last week, St. Maximin, with that individual error from Steve Cook. We'll speak about that in a moment. But Harry Wilson, again, pretty effective down the middle. He had a number of chances during the game, and there was one where he marauded down the middle of the park and had a chance to get a shot away. But he does look so much more effective when coming through that centre of the pitch. Yeah,
he does. He was really mobile, a big threat. And actually, if you look at that game, I mean, after 20 minutes, Eddie's not going to make a substitution. But you kind of think, right, we're 1-0 up away at Newcastle. Let's shore it up in the middle, because we started then giving them too much space. Their wing backs pushed on, which stopped Rico and Adam Smith getting forward as effectively as they had been doing. So they pushed on to us, and I think Billing and Lewis Cook could have done with a bit of extra help in that middle of the midfield. And so I would in hindsight take Callum off, play Josh on his own up front, stick somebody else in the middle. And let's be a bit more solid.
Yeah, I thought Callum Wilson did have a poor game, and I put out a player ratings video yesterday where I gave him a 4 out of 10, and maybe it's a bit harsh, but I just think he just was not himself. And it was just that chance early on, as I say, where he was going through on goal, and the defender was always going to be in a foot race with him. But the fact that he didn't even use his strength to maintain possession of the ball, and ended up, cynically fouling the defender, like causing the keeper to have an injury at the end. It was just, I don't know what's wrong with him. And it seems to be between the international breaks, he's not been particularly great. And we were speaking last week about how has he been selected for England, whereas players like Steve Cook did not. But as you said earlier, Steve Cook did have a moment, didn't he, where St. Maximin got a shot on goal.
Yeah, football's a volatile game. You could be a hero one week and then, responsible the next. So I think that was actually the key, because when Cookie makes that mistake and lets St. Maximin through, he hits the bar and should have scored, but the lift that gave to the crowd, I mean, that was, they then thought, hey, we're in this game, and suddenly we seem to be just coughing the ball up so cheaply, and it was very odd to see. Why did we capitulate so easily? And I honestly, I struggle to understand what is going through the heads of the players. It's almost like there's not enough leadership on the pitch, and obviously we're missing Big Jeff in the middle. Would he have made a difference? I'd like to think he would, because he kind of brings that sort of determination and the odd foul to slow the momentum down of the opposition. But we just started conceding. And the goal was needlessly ball given away by Phil Billing. They get the ball up quickly. It's a bit of a lucky goal, if I'm honest. But Cookie, step a yard forward, man. You're behind the line. You're not looking across that line. And if he steps forward, the guy is offside.
Yeah, who was it who crossed the ball for Newcastle? Because he was on the sort of edge, well, not on the edge of the box, but sort of on the apex of the box, and it went over the head of Lewis Cook and Adam Smith, and he had time to bring it down and put it onto his right foot and then shape that cross in. That's bizarre how much time and space he had. I
think it was almost a shot, actually. Was it St Maximum again? I think maybe he goes to try and bend it into the top corner. It deflects off Adam Smith, which holds the ball up beautifully. So, kind of lucky. Could we have got a better block on that? Maybe. I thought it was symptomatic of the team just not wanting it quite as much as Newcastle. Last week throwing bodies in the way, making all those tackles, making the blocks. Yesterday, just not quite there.
Were there any players for Newcastle that stood out for you yesterday? Because for me, the goal scorer, Yedlin, I thought was tremendous down that right-hand side.
Yeah, the right back, Yedlin. Yeah, I thought he was great. Caused us a lot of trouble. And actually, by the way that team plays, I mean, it was both defenders score for them again. He's got a lot of energy. He was brilliant. He was the guy who cleared the ball off the line when Fraser was through. So great engine, and just caused us a lot of trouble. I thought after the game there was an indicative few remarks that Ryan Fraser was talking about. We're just not defending that well, and I was thinking, hang on, mate. You defend as a team. You're the one who should have been tracking him back.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And you see him on the highlights. He's calling across, saying, "Someone pick him up."
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I noticed he makes that motion with his right arm, trying to tell someone else to get into place. But really, he should have been responsible for that. And yeah, it's an absolute shame. And you just felt at 1-1 there was that momentum shift, and they came out pretty much as they finished the first half, didn't they? As I said, it was like 3 half-hour chunks during the game, and it was a continuation in the second half. But I noticed they were a lot more compact in the second half. Now, in the first, there was a lot of space between the lines, the defenders and the midfielders, and Josh King was coming short, managing to pick the balls up from Lewis Cook, turn, run at players. Harry Wilson was doing the same. We couldn't do that in the second half whatsoever, and they were so compact, and they were moving forward, as a unit. But then every so often, they would play like worldy through balls, like Shelby, towards the latter part of the game, and we really struggle playing against teams that have got really deep defences, don't we?
Yeah, there's a really good article on the Athletic about that, how we do struggle against teams that lie deep against us. I think it's a significant problem, because when we were chasing the game as we were yesterday, we did not look until about the last 5 minutes that we were going to get anywhere near scoring. I don't think we created anything that looked particularly special until that final flurry of corners. And just several things that you sort of worry about. Number one, against Newcastle, that they like to sit deep and hit you on the counter-attack. So to go 1-0 up and then concede 2 pretty soft goals as we did. I mean, we haven't talked about the second one yet, so come to that in a minute. But that concedes the game to be in their hands. And I think a lot of teams, particularly when we play at home like Norwich the other week, they do sit deep against us and say, get through. If we're going to get through like that, you need creativity in the centre. You need creativity on the wings, people getting behind the fullbacks. But I just didn't see that yesterday, not enough in that second half. There just seemed to be a lack of appetite to really go for it. And it was unusual to watch, really, really unusual. And just the air of sloppiness was
Yeah.
All over the pitch. It was awful, except for one player who was outstanding and basically kept it from being a cricket score.
Ramsdale? Yeah. I thought he was fantastic yesterday, and as I said, there were a number of chances that Newcastle created in that second half, and there was that one where he came to the edge of his box and jumped up high and prevented the simple lob. Was it St Maximin again that was going through on goal, and he managed to get a hand on it? And then Newcastle having issues up front with their strikers, at least one of the players shot into the other and went over for a goal kick. But it's just their luck at the moment. But at least they've got their defence scoring. But Ramsdale again was very solid. The only minor issue there was one bad piece of distribution where he kicked out and it found one of the Newcastle players who had a shot which was tame in the end, just a bit of a daisy cutter, but he was our best player by a country mile yesterday.
Yeah, and I think the great thing to come out of yesterday is Ramsdale is number one, the best find of the season for us so far. So that's great. That second goal, though, I'm going to have a go about this one as well, right? Last week, do you remember on the podcast when we were talking about this game?
Yeah.
I said, watch this goal they score against West Ham. It's a corner, ball goes back 2 yards, the guy swings it in, back post, Clark scores.
Yeah.
It was the same flipping corner.
Yeah. It was really disappointing, the manner, because the header actually touched Nathan Ake, I think, and it just fell to the feet of Clark, who just sort of like he ushered it in, and at that point, I don't know, I just felt really despondent. And you start to sort of overanalyze things when you're like 2-1 down, and you start to pick up on the mistakes a little bit more. When you're 1-0 up and things don't come off, it's okay, like at least we're trying things. But individual errors, there were so many of them. Even towards the end of the first half, there was Adam Smith who made a couple of errors, and I thought he started off really well, but then as the game went on, he did lose it somewhat. Yeah. Steve Cook made a couple of errors. Callum Wilson, the ball was just bouncing off him at times. His retention was awful. I remember, someone was playing. Was it Lewis Cook playing? Fairly well weighted through balls to him, and it was just bouncing off his shins. Yeah. And that happened not only once but 2 or 3 times, and that was so disappointing to see an England international fail to control the ball.
And it gave them the motivation to think we can get at Bournemouth because their defence is sloppy. And in fact, throughout the team, I thought Phil Billing coughed it up a few times yesterday, which is a bit unusual. I think we just got a bit slow. When we go passive when we're 1-0 up, and we start just sort of just slowing the game down, and it doesn't play to our strengths. It allows the other team to get organised and press us more. So we make more mistakes, and it becomes self-fulfilling. The whole game was just so frustrating.
Yeah,
and when that ball goes out for the corner, Adam Smith does not get close enough to the guy to stop that cross going in. He knows it's going to happen because that's the corner routine they do. So you can get out there quicker, you can commit quicker because you know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's right. So what change do we make? Bring on Frano. I obviously know that this is, it's not a like-for-like replacement, and we changed our formation as a result. So we went 3 at the back, and then we overloaded the midfield and tried to, put another man up top. So Solanke came on as well. But it was 4-4-2 or that formation. It didn't make any difference because trying to break through was impossible. And we had a lot of the ball on the edge of their penalty area and in their half. However, they were sort of playing the Leicester City game, almost the sort of counter-attacking style, and we couldn't break through whatsoever, could we? And then until the final minute, that is, arguably they had the best chances of the half, as we said, St Maximin, and then that long ball from Shelvey that completely sort of caught Nathan Ake out.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's a difficult one because we trust Eddie. He's the manager. He calls it as he sees it. However, going to 3 at the back with Francis playing on that right-hand side and trying to push Adam Smith a bit further up, I mean, it just didn't work. They were sitting so deep that we didn't need another defender going on. If anything, we needed somebody else just up front. However, again, look at the bench. Who was on our bench? We had Stacey and Frano. I mean, surely Surely it just needs one of those, and probably just Frano. Dan Juma, who we did bring on, Solanke, we did bring on. There was no other real option, I didn't think, for him to change it up. It sort of speaks to that lack of depth we've got in midfield going forward, particularly when Lerma's out, Gosling out injured, Brooks out injured. I think we just needed something else on the bench. Should I mention maybe Jordan Hyde? I don't know.
Apparently he did well for the under-21s on Friday night, did a long mazy run that resulted in one of our goals. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is at the moment. Does the lack of goals from our midfield sort of centre midfielders ever worry you? Because Billing usually gets a shot or two away sort of most games, but once again it was sky high over the bar when he had an effort, and we seem to be lacking goals from midfield at the moment.
And that was
apart
one
from
of
Harry Wilson, that is, of course.
Of course, and that is one of our strengths, I think, that from last season, was that Gosling chips in with quite a few goals during the season, and he's been actually a big miss, I think, for us. It's kind of goes under the radar, but he's got energy, can tackle, he gets forward really well, and he makes the extra man in attack, which we've been missing from midfield. I think Lewis Cook tends to want to sit a little bit deeper, and he's fantastic at long through balls, but he's not the guy who's going to get to the edge of the box and play 1-2s, or arrive late in the box and score on the end of something. He's not that sort of player, which Gosling is. So I can't wait for him to come back and give us an extra dimension. Lerma, as I said earlier, big miss, and I think we need him back. I mean, we've got a tough run of fixtures coming up, so we need these players back, fit and playing.
Yeah. Do you think Philip Billing and Lewis Cook are too similar?
Yes.
Yeah, so do I. I'm not sure it works when they're in a centre midfield pair, which is why I'm really looking forward to seeing Dan Gosling return. But he was on the bench, and yeah, we could have got. It was a bizarre game because whilst we had all the possession, especially in the second half, they had the best chances. And I remember telling you last week on the podcast that we have won 4 out of 5 games this season or something when we've had the least possession. In that match, we had 67% possession. It seems that possession doesn't really matter as a stat, does it anymore?
It doesn't. They had the best chances, actually. They had more shots overall.
They had 20 shots, which is worrying, really. That's a lot of shots.
That is really worrying on that amount of possession, which speaks to the fact that defensively we weren't working as a unit hard enough to stop them going forwards. I thought Shelvey began to dominate in the second half with those long through balls that he loves to play, and we didn't seem to have an answer, and it was so frustrating to watch. It gets more frustrating though, Sam, because in that last 5 minutes, we could have come away from that game with a point and all felt, well, at least we got a point. Even though I think most Bournemouth fans watching that first 30 minutes will think, how did we not win that 1-2 or 3-0?
Well, had we been more clinical in the opening stages, I think it would have opened up, and we could have put a number of goals past them. But as soon as they got those 2 goals, they just sat back, and then they counter-attacked at times. But them actually sitting back enabled us to have a lot of the ball, and then we pumped it into the box a number of times, not least with one of the final chances of the game, and it was Josh King at the far post who seemingly had the post to contend with, and many people are blaming the fact that he was kind of half wondering, am I going to clatter into the post, that he didn't make a proper connection onto the ball.
I think credit also to the defender who did put him off. It wasn't just a straightforward nod it in. The angle was against him. However, he knows it. He should have scored. His expression afterwards, he knows he should have scored. And just before that as well, the ball's pinging around the penalty area, falls to Frano, right? Who do you want in 8 yards out with the goal, at their mercy, so to speak? It's not him. It just sort of summed it up. So frustrating. So frustrating.
So what's going wrong then? Drawing with Watford, Norwich, losing at Newcastle, beating Man United. Where is the? Let's try to work out what the hell's going on, because I can't.
5 points from those 4 games is a bad return. we should arguably have got 4 wins because we had chances to win all 4 of those games, not just the one. And the hardest one of the lot is the one that we win. I mean, it's crazy. The team is not functioning as a unit. I think, what are we going to do about Callum? I think give him a break. I think let's park it for a while. I think you can perhaps just go with Josh up front, maybe bring Solanke in, but just give him a break for a few games. Might give him the incentive to get his mojo back. Fraser.
Yeah, that's one thing I was just about to ask you. What was your opinion on Ryan Fraser's performance yesterday?
Started off really brightly, but just seems to have, again, decided that he's almost, I'm hesitating to say it's almost like too good that he doesn't need to put the hard yards in. And there was a remark on Twitter somebody made that is he and Callum actually talking now? It seems like they've had a bust up or something.
Well, the way they combined last season compared to now, I mean, it's just absolutely bizarre. I mean, yes, he did get an assist yesterday for Harry Wilson, but yeah, in terms of his link up with Callum, it's non-existent. But Callum was just awful yesterday. It was really depressing, and a long journey back as well for the AFC Bournemouth fans. You know, 6.5 hours, or some people flew from Bristol, some people that I knew, but not ideal going into the international break, is it? And a lot of thinking for Eddie Howe to do.
Not ideal. We've got a run of tough fixtures coming up. It's I think it's Wolves, then is it Tottenham, then Chelsea, Palace. Then none of those games are going to be easy. In fact, Liverpool are start of December as well. So we've got it all cut out for us to do. In the old days, and an international break, that would be great for us because we didn't have many internationals and Eddie would have loads of time to work with the players. Now it feels like 80% of the team are on international duty. And so, one of the downsides of having a deeper, better squad is that he doesn't get as much time to work with them. There is something fundamentally not quite clicking with that team as a unit. I think that if you're going to play Harry Wilson, you've got to play him more centrally. I think it's not playing to his strengths out on the left enough, and then he doesn't provide enough cover, which was part of the problem yesterday. I think there wasn't enough cover behind him to protect the fullback, and maybe Danjuma actually looked a bit lively again when he came on. I know it's a little cameo, but he does have something. Maybe we could give him a bit of a run.
This is why that I'm really annoyed that we're out of the Carabao Cup, because it would be matches like that just where we can really see his true potential, because him coming on for 20 minutes every now and then are not really going to help Eddie to actually know whether he can cut it or not. But yeah, really disappointing. We'll just briefly, if it's okay, Jeff, chat about some other games from the weekend. I mean, Sheffield United flying high. I mean, you've got to admire the job that Wilder is doing there, sitting where they are in the Premier League on 17 points. I know it's only 1 point above us, but they were tipped by many to be relegated. They're doing so well, and their fans are saying that Lys Mousset is brilliant.
I know, and again, we mentioned this last time, didn't we? How come we let Mousset go? Because actually, with a run in the team, he's proving a fantastic asset. It's interesting, the comment that Neil made a few weeks ago about us not being quite the sum of the parts in the team is instructive, I think, for looking at Sheffield United. It feels like they're a bit like we were a couple of seasons ago. We came up full of enthusiasm, everybody wanted to play, the team ethic was really strong. They didn't have a great sort of standout players in that team, but they're more than the sum of their parts. If that had been us playing Spurs yesterday, we lose that game 1-0. I'm not kidding. We are not at that same level where the team is playing with the intensity that we need to get a result and believe that we can get a result. That's what Sheffield United have. Also, Leicester. Do you see Leicester beat Arsenal?
Yeah, really.
That again, it makes me think back to the game where we went down 1-0. Arsenal there for the taking. We just conceded them far too much respect in that first half. Leicester didn't. Leicester thought, we're better than you and we're going to show it. we need that sort of attitude, and the team has got, we're carrying too many players. Eddie, you got some work to do, because it's not just about the players individually. It's about how they're functioning as a team. There are some people management issues there. It's going to be really interesting to see what lineup he puts out against Wolves.
Yeah, really do miss Jefferson Lerma, and hopefully he goes straight back in there. What worries me with the matches that we've got ahead is when you look at the league table. I mean, we're on 16 points, but you can go down as far as 16th with West Ham on 13, so only 3 points beneath us. And with the games that we have got, it could all go badly wrong for us. And you start to look at these games that we've just had, thinking we should have done better there. A lot of people have been riding the crest of a sort of mental wave by looking at our league position and thinking, yeah, we're 7th in the Premier League, but I think it's been a bit of a faux position, hasn't it? And it could be bad for us if we don't get our form back. We need to be a well-oiled side again.
Yeah, and how do you think Wolves are going to play against us, Sam? They're going to sit deep and hit us on the break, aren't they? Because that's what they do. That's what they do. And they've been very successful at that, and that's the way that teams know that we struggle against that. So, is David Brooks going to be back? He's probably, if he is back, he's not going to be match fit in that game. How are we going to cope? What are we going to do? It's a problem. Not going to deny it. The next 4 games, the last 4 games we should be getting 12 points. The next 4 games we could easily end up with 0.
Well, food for thought. So that's Wolverhampton Wanderers next weekend. Are we looking forward to it? No idea. But we'll see you in the next video. Up the cherries.